How to generate higher quality leads from your Google Ads campaigns. If you feel that you're getting some leads from Google Ads, but they're of low quality, then this is the video for you. Because after helping dozens of businesses improve the performance of their Google Ads campaigns, not by spending more money, but by getting better leads from the money they're already spending, I've been able to create a full step-by-step process and guide on exactly how you can improve the quality of your leads within Google Ads. So in this video, I'll detail the step-by-step process on how you can reduce the number of bad leads and improve the quality of the relevant leads that you are getting through your account. Now, the first part of this process that I'll cover with all clients is how do we actually track the quality of the leads? If we're going to track our ability to improve something, we need to have some kind of process in place. Far too often I might hear a business say, I feel like the quality of leads is reducing. That word feel is the general kind of issue I have there. Is we need some kind of process. It can't be based on feel or gut. We need to actually understand the overall value of the quotes within your business or the leads within your account. So when a new prospect comes to us and they say we want to improve our lead quality, the first question I'll say is, how are you currently tracking it? Too often they'll be saying, I feel like leads weren't very good this week. I feel like the last few months they've not been great, but they haven't really got any kind of process to track the quality of those leads coming through. One of the most common reasons for that is the traditional agency model of tracking Google Ads successes. So they'll have their campaign set up within Google Ads, so they'll be tracking lead forms, phone calls, maybe purchases, clicks to email, contact us, page forms. There's no process. All the agency will do is see how many of those actions happened and report that back to the client and say, we had 20 lead forms this month and we had 10 phone calls. That's it. There's no further information or tracking of the quality of those leads. Essentially, those could be 20 terrible lead forms, all people looking for jobs or complete spam, or they could be 20 of the best leads that business has ever received. The agency has no idea, and the business has no idea as to whether those high quality leads or spam leads came from Google Ads or something else. The key next step the businesses then need is a quote value for those leads. That's generally how we transition with all the clients we work with. We move away from talking about conversions, and firstly we start talking about the number of quotable leads, actual qualified quotable leads that came from Google Ads. And then the next stage of that is we start talking about quotable value. What is the actual value for the business on each of those leads? So there can be a range of ways to work that out. If it's a single product or transaction with a fixed rate, that's pretty easy. But also we can start looking at lifetime value, average order value, that type of thing. Most businesses will say, well, rather than quote value, shouldn't we actually be tracking sales value? A key differentiator for that is that moving something from quotable to a sales isn't really the job of Google Ads or any other marketing to an extent. Of course, if you had higher quality leads, it would make it easier for that transition to go from quote value to sales value. But when we're trying to rate the successes and progress of a Google Ads campaign, we can't necessarily be beholden to the ability of the sales team to convert people from quote value to sales value. So that's one reason we don't over obsess over sales value. Secondly, that quote value data and the number of quotable leads and the quotable value is vital data to go back into the Google Ads campaigns. And I'll talk about that in a second as to how you can improve the performance of your Google Ads campaigns over time by reporting quote value back to Google. But in order for that process to work, you need to give Google as many data signals as possible. You are obviously going to have far more quotes than you are sales. So we need to give Google more of that quotable value. Also, the sales value might take weeks, months, sometimes even years to come through. That data is then essentially stale and useless when it comes to optimizing Google Ads campaigns. Whereas for most businesses, the moment a lead comes through, or perhaps after that first discovery call, you're going to know the quotable value for that piece of business. So what I've talked about there is the process of reporting back to Google, not just how many conversions you had, so how many forms or calls, but reporting back to Google which one of those clicks became a quotable lead, a qualified lead, and then of those qualified leads, what was the value of those, and reporting the quotable value back to Google. That process is a process called offline conversion tracking. It's fundamental for businesses looking to succeed in an AI search world, looking to improve lead quality, and looking to scale. So I produced a whole video on the exact explanation of offline conversion tracking and why it's so important. But I fundamentally believe that you cannot improve the quality of the leads you're getting through Google Ads if you're not doing offline conversion tracking. Generally, that integration can be done in a number of different ways. It can be done manually through some kind of Google Sheets, which, to be honest, can be very buggy and a bit of a nightmare. There's a number of CRMs that offer offline conversion tracking directly within them. So HubSpot is a great example of that. Or we as a business use What Converts for pretty much all of our lead generating clients because it enables that offline conversion tracking. All of our clients can go into our account or their account. They can look at all the leads that have come through, all of the forms. They can then select as to whether they're quotable or not, and they can also add the quote value either manually or through integrations. That integration piece is absolutely fundamental. If a business comes to us and they're not currently working with us and they say our lead quality isn't very good, or we want to improve our lead quality, one of the first things we will do is install offline conversion tracking, primarily using What Converts. Once that's all set up and done correctly, you're essentially telling Google, firstly, don't just optimize for conversions, so forms, but optimize for quotable leads. So we want more quotable leads. That way, when Google is deciding whether it wants to spend your hard-earned budget on a particular search, it will do that based on the view of, will it get you a quotable lead rather than will it get you a conversion? Two completely different things. A form is not a lead. A qualified lead is a lead. That's step one. Step two is then we change the bidding strategy within the Google Ads campaigns. Most businesses will be familiar with the maximize conversions strategy. Tell Google you want more quotable leads and it will get you more quotable leads in terms of quantity. However, what we then do as the next step is change the bidding strategy to maximize conversion value. We are then reporting the conversion value back into Google Ads. And for most businesses, that conversion value is the quotable value. I explained earlier why the sales value doesn't quite make sense at this stage. There's not enough data in the account to do that. So we report the quotable value back into Google Ads. So you can go into a campaign and see how much did you quote from this campaign. And actually then, for the real Google Ads nerds out there, you get a metric that we're kind of coining and claiming this one. We call it QVOS, quotable value over ad spend. How much did you quote for every pound you spent on ads? That can then give you an actual statistic and piece of data that you can see how is your account performing from one week to the next. In a complete sweeping statement, generally speaking, we like to see a 20 QVOS. So we like to see clients quoting around 20 times what they have spent on ads. That obviously ranges hugely depending on whether we're including lifetime value, the conversion rate of the sales team, the margin of the business, but 20 is a general kind of blanket rate that we like to look at. If you are quoting only 2 times, so 2, what you're spending on ads, you need to have either unbelievably high margins or an unbelievably amazing sales team to convert those to continue to justify that spend on Google Ads. So when this is now in place, you've moved 3 steps in the right direction when it comes to improving your Google Ads performance. Firstly, some businesses aren't even tracking conversions at all, so put those to one side. Next, there's businesses that are reporting back to Google the lead forms they got, which is fine, but those lead forms could be rubbish. Next, we move into reporting the number of quotable leads into Google. So we do maximize conversions on quotable leads, so we get more quotable leads, not just more lead forms. And then the final step is we then start to tell Google that we want a higher quotable value because we're reporting quotable value back to Google. This process not only gives amazing data back to Google so it knows what to optimize, but it also gives the business far more understanding of the value of leads each month. Rather than that kind of gut feel of, oh, leads felt good or bad this week or this month, we can see exactly how much did they quote off the back of Google Ads? What was the average quote value of the leads that came through? And so we've got an actual metric. So as we start to improve campaigns, we've got a benchmark that we can track ourselves against. And just a reminder, if you want a better understanding of what offline conversion tracking is, why it's so useful for businesses, and why I feel so many agencies aren't currently doing it, you can watch this video here with offline conversion tracking explained. Now, the next step in terms of improving the quality of your leads comes from the ability to specifically isolate which campaigns are bringing you flat out terrible leads. So which campaigns are generating either spam leads, people looking for work, or just generally not something you even do. And again, going back to what I said at the start, that's just not possible in the traditional way Google Ads campaigns are set up, because a agency or whoever will go into the Google Ads campaign, they'll see it had 30 lead forms and they'll have no idea how good or bad they're not. This next step is therefore only achievable using offline conversion tracking. In this specific example, you need to be using a system such as What Converts, so you can look at every single lead and see which campaign it came from so you can isolate those bad leads accordingly. And this is exactly what we did for a commercial flooring installer that we've been working with for over 5 years. And they were one of the first businesses to come on board when we moved over to what converts as a key part of our offering and the services that we provide. We were able to track, and within about a month of using what converts, we could look at all of the campaigns we were running. And the key for this business was they wanted to reduce the number of residential inquiries they had. It wasn't a huge number, but they specifically provide commercial flooring installation. Google wasn't intelligent enough, and probably still isn't, to show ads just for people looking for commercial rather than residential. But the client was still getting around 10% of their total leads were essentially bad leads because they were residential. Using what converts, we were able to then look at all of the campaigns on a campaign by campaign basis and very quickly realized that one campaign in particular was the source of almost all of the bad leads. We're able to turn that off basically straight away. I just don't feel there is a way to do this if you're not A, using offline conversion tracking, and B, you don't have the data foundations in place to accurately see what campaigns are generating bad leads. By using this system, pretty much overnight for this client, we're able to reduce the number of bad leads by 10%, move budget around and move it into a campaign that was generating more quotes and a higher quote value. This specific example of Google getting you bad or spam leads, whether it's straight up spam, which does happen, whether it's residential compared to commercial in this example, or if it's people looking for a job, absolutely gets worse when you rely on AI-led campaigns where you give control over to Google, but you're not giving it the data to tell it what you want. So this is a perfect example, and you'll see this in some of my other videos, of the dangers of relying on AI-led campaigns, such as Performance Max, for lead generating campaigns where you've not got lead data to go into Google. If you tell Google to run a Performance Max campaign and you want lead forms, and it realizes that by showing your ads on this particular website for display ads, it got 50 lead forms, it's just going to keep showing your ads on that particular website. They could all be spam, but that doesn't matter because you've told Google you want lead forms, you've not told it you want qualified leads, so it will keep getting you more lead forms. Accounts will snowball downhill because you are telling the automation and the AI that's what you want. I am incredibly cautious in recommending Performance Max to any business, let alone lead generation accounts, if you don't have the data in the account through offline conversion tracking to accurately get results. I always use a Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibility. Performance Max has great power. Absolutely, you are giving it and you have so much power at your fingertips to get the absolute best out of AI, but your responsibility is to feed it with good data. If you are feeding it with rubbish data and just feeding it with lead forms and saying, yep, we got 50 lead forms, get us more, you're going to waste a lot of money. So when it comes to the process of improving the quality of your leads in your Google Ads campaign, isolating where the bad leads are coming from, turning it off is a key fundamental that so many businesses just don't have the ability to do. And almost always that source of bad leads is coming from campaigns that are very AI led, but you're not giving Google the right steer as to what you want because you're not doing the offline conversion tracking that I mentioned in the first part of this video. Without this tracking in place, we never would have known that that particular campaign was the source of all the bad leads. So we never would have been able to improve the lead quality of the account. By isolating that and highlighting that, you can improve the performance of your campaigns almost overnight. Another key reason that lead quality within accounts is poor or is declining is because businesses completely incorrectly use the bid adjustment feature within Google Ads. It's not uncommon for us to hear from businesses that they primarily want leads from people searching on computer over mobile. And I'm not necessarily here going to debate whether that's right or wrong, but often what businesses then decide to do is think that they are adjusting how much they spend on mobile, but they make the situation 10 times worse, or in this example, 50 times worse. They go into the Google Ads area, they go to the device bid adjustments, and there's a setting that would appear that you can set it to minus 50% or minus 80%, and it would imply that by putting a minus 50% bid adjustment for mobile, you're saying we want to spend 50% less on mobile than we want to spend on computers. That is not what that does, but so many businesses think it does, and misunderstanding that actually makes the situation worse. What you are doing with that 50% adjustment is not saying to Google we want to spend less on mobile over the course of a month by 50%. What you're saying is we want to spend 50% less per click. So basically, if Google has decided that the going rate for your keyword on mobile is £1, and you put a 50% adjustment in place, you are saying we're only willing to spend 50 pence, 50% of the going rate for that click. So if in this example, you already think mobiles are the source of bad traffic, what you've then done is say, we're only willing to spend half of the going rate for those bad leads anyway. So you're just going to end up appearing for even worse leads, even more bad leads, because you've misinterpreted the use of the specific bid adjustment feature within Google Ads. And that doesn't just work for devices, by the way. There's a range of demographics you can tweak using bid adjustments, but so many businesses do it wrong. If, and I'm not saying you should, but if you don't want to appear on mobile at all, then use the 100% bid adjustment to completely remove it, because you won't spend anything on it at that point. And then what you can do is you can do an experiment within Google Ads of that first campaign and do the reverse on the other campaign. So you say 100% off for the computers. We do want to appear on mobile, and you can compare and contrast. I wouldn't worry too much about that right now, however, because going back to the core context of what I said right at the start, we need to rely on smart bidding. If we've told Google that we want the high value quotable leads, because we're reporting back all that data, we need to take a step back and trust in Google. And if Google believes that a mobile click can be the source of the goals that we want, so a high value quotable lead, we should trust it to do that. We need to move away from presuming we know more than Google when it comes to its ability to get us high quality leads. I can almost fundamentally say that if you're doing all of the other foundations right that I've mentioned in this video, mobile leads are not going to be the reason for your bad leads. It can often be a kind of red herring. So I'll just be very cautious on that. But worse still, don't make that middle ground adjustment that I've just discussed, which actually will make your situation worse. And a final principle to consider when it comes to improving lead quality, if you've done everything else right and we're happy on the offline conversion tracking and the setup with Google, would be potentially to consider Microsoft Ads. There is a lot of, I suppose, a combination of data and kind of anecdotal evidence that Microsoft Ads can be the source for higher quality business-to-business leads for, generally speaking, 3 key reasons. Firstly, the majority of the businesses in the UK use Microsoft devices, and therefore Microsoft search engines and Bing will be the primary and default search engine on there. That's step 1. Step 2 is, generally speaking, the age demographic of people that use Bing Ads is, generally speaking, higher. For your business, that might imply high quality leads. For not all, but for some businesses, absolutely. Perhaps if you're in financial services as an example for that. And number 3, generally speaking, cost per click on Bing Ads or Microsoft Ads is far lower because there's less competition, so you can also get more bang for your buck. What I would again fundamentally say from Microsoft Ads is yes, they can work. Generally speaking, I would recommend a budget of around 20% what you're spending on ads. But if you haven't followed the other steps I've said so far in this video, if you haven't got offline conversion tracking accurately set up, if you haven't highlighted the campaigns that are bringing in the bad and spam leads, that's not suddenly going to be fixed by Microsoft Ads. If you've got everything right and you've got the fundamentals in place, and generally for businesses, if you've got a really good market share in that space, then absolutely testing on Microsoft Ads is a really good option. But if you're getting bad leads from Google and that's not being fixed, you're not suddenly going to change that by doing Microsoft Ads instead, but you could be able to double down and get better performance by testing it on a small budget percentage. Because Microsoft Ads absolutely isn't for everyone, but with the right setup, the right testing, and the right tracking, it absolutely can be an option to test and explore, especially if you feel you have saturated a particularly niche market in the services that you're offering. And there it is. Those are the exact systems and fundamentals we have used in the past to improve the lead quality of the customers that work with us. And if you want help either setting this up or auditing your current account, we offer a completely free audit service. We will review your entire Google Ads campaign. We'll look for sources of waste to spend. We'll look for clear missed opportunities. We'll analyze your campaign as to how prepared you are for an AI search world. If that's of interest, please click the first link in the description below and we'll get you booked in for your free audit service. I hope that helps and we'll see you soon.